The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark between stars. Inside its main chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in a great circle. The room was huge, with seats shaped for different kinds of beings. Some had long necks, others had multiple arms, and a few looked like living crystals. Ambassador Minjun Park walked slowly to the center of the circle. He was the only human in the room. His simple black suit looked plain next to the fancy robes and armor worn by the aliens around him. The other representatives whispered to each other and pointed at him. Admiral Kethvara stood up from her seat. She was tall and elegant, with blue skin that seemed to glow. Her silver uniform had many medals on it. She belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, the strongest military force in the galaxy. When she spoke, her voice was smooth but cold. "Humans of Earth," she said, looking down at Park. "Your time of playing pretend is over. You have built colonies on worlds that belong to us. You must leave those worlds now, or we will remove you." The chamber filled with quiet sounds. The crystal beings called the Veltar made a tinkling noise that was their version of laughter. The insect-like Thraxians clicked their sharp mouthparts together. Even the fish-like Nereidans in their water tanks seemed amused. Admiral Kethvara touched a control on her wrist. The air above the center of the room filled with a blue glow. Images appeared, showing huge spaceships. There were thousands of them, all black and deadly looking. Each ship was 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Behold the Eternal Fleet," Kethvara said proudly. 10,000 warships. Each one carries quantum disruptors that can tear apart your primitive vessels. Each one has shields that can stop any weapon you possess. More images appeared. They showed Earth's small fleet of 200 ships. The human vessels looked old and beaten up compared to the sleek Zephyrian warships. Their weapons were simple plasma cannons and metal projectiles that the aliens called barbaric. The Galactic Mediator, an ancient being that looked like a walking tree, spoke in a deep voice. "Ambassador Park, your species has heard the terms. The Zephyrian Empire offers you the chance to surrender peacefully. They will allow your people to live if you give up your outer colonies." Park listened quietly. His face showed no emotion. Around him, the alien representatives continued their whispered conversations. Many seemed surprised that humans had dared to challenge the Zephyrians at all. A delegate from the ether species, beings made of living gas, spoke up. "Perhaps the humans do not understand the situation. Their technology is 50 years behind ours. Their ships use fusion reactors while we mastered antimatter centuries ago." This caused more sounds of amusement from around the chamber. The Thraxian representative clicked louder. "They still use kinetic weapons. Metal bullets in space. How primitive." Admiral Kethvara smiled, showing perfect white teeth. "We have studied human military capabilities for years. We know exactly what ships you have and where they are located. We know your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. We know your reactors cannot power weapons strong enough to damage our hulls." She gestured, and new images appeared. These showed human military bases, shipyards, and weapon factories. Everything looked small and weak compared to alien technology. "Your largest ship carries only 20 plasma cannons," she continued. "Our smallest destroyer has more firepower than your entire fleet. Your people are brave, but foolish. Do not throw away your lives for a few worthless rocks in space." The chamber grew quiet as everyone waited for the human response. Park stood in the center, surrounded by beings who could destroy his entire species without much effort. Some of the younger alien delegates looked almost sad. They seemed to think humans were cute, but stupid, like pets that didn't know any better. The ancient mediator spoke again. "Ambassador Park, you have heard the evidence. The Zephyrian Empire possesses overwhelming military superiority. Your resistance would result in the extinction of your species. Will you accept their terms?" Park finally spoke. His voice was calm and steady. "I have listened to Admiral Kethvara's words. I have seen her impressive fleet. I understand that she believes humans should fear her weapons." He paused and looked around the chamber. "However, Earth's answer is no. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not bow to threats. If the Zephyrian Empire wants our worlds, they will have to take them by force." The silence that followed was complete. No one made a sound. Even the mechanical humming of the station's life support seemed to stop. Then the chamber erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Admiral Kethvara's blue face turned a darker shade. "You cannot be serious. You are choosing suicide for your entire species." The Veltar delegate's crystal body flashed with rapid colors, showing extreme surprise. The Thraxian clicked so fast, it sounded like machine gun fire. Even the calm mediator's branches rustled with what might have been concern. "This is madness," said the Ether representative. "Humans cannot win this war. It is impossible." Park nodded politely. "You may be right, but that is our choice to make." He turned to leave, then stopped, and looked back at Admiral Kethvara. "Admiral, when you attack our system, please remember that we tried to solve this peacefully. What happens next is your decision." As Park walked toward the exit, the chamber filled with the sounds of shocked conversation in dozens of alien languages. Many representatives seemed unable to believe what they had just heard. A few looked impressed by human courage, but most appeared to think they had just witnessed a form of mass suicide. Admiral Kethvara watched the human leave. She had expected fear, pleading, maybe offers to negotiate. She had not expected calm defiance. For a moment, she almost felt sorry for the humans. They seemed so determined to die bravely for nothing. But the feeling passed quickly. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. No primitive species could threaten them. In a few days, the human problem would be solved forever. The galactic mediator's deep voice filled the chamber one last time. "Let the record show that Earth has rejected the Zephyrian ultimatum. May the galaxy remember their courage, however misguided it may be." As the session ended and delegates began to leave, many were already planning to watch the coming battle. It would be the shortest war in galactic history. Admiral Kethvara returned to her flagship, feeling almost disappointed. The massive warship called Eternal Dominion was like a floating city. Its halls were wide enough for ground vehicles to drive through. Its main cannon could destroy a moon. She walked into the command center where dozens of officers worked at glowing control panels. The room's main screen showed the human solar system, far away but easy to reach. Small red dots marked the locations of human ships and bases. There were so few of them. "Admiral," said her tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Veltar, "we have completed our final intelligence review. Human military strength remains exactly as predicted." Kethvara nodded and sat in her command chair. The chair was made of metal that felt warm to the touch and adjusted itself to her body. "Show me their pathetic fleet again." The main screen changed to show detailed images of human warships. They looked rough and ugly compared to Zephyrian vessels. Their hulls were covered in what looked like patches and repairs. Their weapons were simple tubes that fired metal projectiles or basic energy beams. 200 ships total, Veltar reported. Largest vessel is their flagship, Unity. It masses only 50,000 tons. Our smallest destroyer masses 200,000 tons. Other officers around the room made sounds of amusement. To them, the human fleet looked like toys. Children playing with miniature spaceships. "Their weapons?" Kethvara asked. "Plasma cannons with maximum effective range of 50,000 kilometers. Kinetic projectiles that travel at only 10% of light speed. Some kind of explosive missiles that our point defense systems can easily destroy." Kethvara stood and walked to the main screen. She touched it with one elegant finger, pointing at Earth. "And their defenses around the homeworld?" Orbital platforms, with the same primitive weapons, some kind of shield generators that might stop asteroids but will not slow our quantum disruptors. Military bases on their moon and on some asteroids, but nothing significant. The Admiral smiled. This would be the easiest victory in Zephyrian history. She might not even need half her fleet. But the Emperor had ordered a full demonstration of power. The galaxy needed to see what happened to species that defied the Empire. Begin the advance, she commanded. All ships. Set course for the Sol system. Standard approach speed. No need to hurry. Across the galaxy, other species watched the Zephyrian fleet begin its journey. On the ocean world of Narration, the fish-like inhabitants gathered around viewing screens in their underwater cities. They were placing bets on how long the battle would last. Most bet it would be over in less than an hour. On the crystal world of Veltar Prime, the living crystal beings resonated with sounds of sadness. They had grown fond of human music and art during the 50 years since first contact. Soon, there would be no more human creativity in the galaxy. The gas giant dwellers called the Ethers composed what they called ending songs for humanity. These were complex melodies meant to honor brave souls who died fighting impossible odds. The Ethers believed music could help spirits find peace in death. Even the insect-like Thraxians, who rarely cared about other species, seemed affected. Their hive minds buzzed with discussions about human courage. They respected beings who chose death over slavery, even if they thought the choice was stupid. On Earth, emergency broadcasts filled all communication channels. Cities around the world showed scenes of panic and evacuation. Millions of people loaded onto transport ships heading for the outer planets. Military bases appeared to be shutting down. Soldiers moved equipment away from obvious targets. The images reached alien worlds through the Galactic Communication Network. Many species felt sorry watching human families say goodbye, not knowing if they would ever see each other again. Children cried as they were separated from parents who stayed behind to fight. On Luna Base, the military command center built inside the moon, General Sarah Chen stood in front of a wall of screens. Each screen showed different parts of the solar system. Her aide, Colonel Martinez, watched the evacuation reports with obvious worry. General, should we try to contact the Zephyrians again? Maybe offer some kind of compromise? Chen shook her head slowly. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. No, Colonel. We knew this day would come eventually. The protocols are clear. Martinez frowned. What protocols, ma'am? I don't understand. Chen turned to look at him. For a moment, her expression was sad. You will understand soon enough. How long until the Zephyrian fleet reaches our outer system? About 72 hours at their current speed, General. Good. That gives us time to complete the final preparations. Chen walked to a secure communication terminal. Send activation codes to all Heimdall stations. Authorization, Chen Alpha, 77. Martinez had never heard of Heimdall stations. He wanted to ask what they were, but the general's expression told him to stay quiet. Something big was happening. Something that had been planned for a long time. Meanwhile, Zephyrian intelligence ships reported back to Admiral Kethvara. Human behavior matched all predictions. Their fleet was retreating toward the outer planets. Their orbital defenses were powering down. Even their communication networks seemed to be failing as panic spread. They are already broken, said Tactical Officer Veltar. Perhaps we should offer surrender terms again. It seems cruel to destroy beings who are already defeated. Kethvara considered this. The humans had shown courage by refusing the first offer. Maybe they deserved a chance to surrender with honor. But then she remembered her orders from the Emperor. This attack was about more than just human colonies. It was about showing the entire galaxy that no one could defy the Zephyrian Empire. No, she decided. They made their choice. We will broadcast the battle across all galactic networks. Let every species see what happens to those who resist us. The massive fleet continued its steady approach to the Sol system. 10,000 ships, moving in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of advanced technology. Their quantum disruptors could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Their shields could stop any known weapon. Their armor was made from metals that existed nowhere in nature. Behind them, across hundreds of worlds, billions of beings prepared to watch what many thought would be the last chapter in human history. Most felt sad about it. Humans were young and sometimes foolish, but they had brought new ideas and energy to the galaxy. Their art, music, and stories would be missed. None of them imagined that in 72 hours, it would be the Zephyrian Empire that faced extinction. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the distant sun. Admiral Kethvara stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, looking at the tactical display with satisfaction. "Scanning the system now, Admiral," reported her tactical officer. "We should detect any human ships immediately." The main screen showed a detailed map of the solar system. The inner planets appeared normal. Earth looked quiet, with only a few orbital stations still active. Mars showed some industrial activity, but nothing military. The outer planets seemed almost empty. "Where is their fleet?" Kethvara asked. "Our intelligence showed 200 ships. Scanning. I detect some ships near Jupiter and Saturn. They appear to be fleeing toward the outer system. Total count is maybe 50 vessels." Kethvara frowned. 50? Where are the others?" "Unknown, Admiral. Perhaps they have already fled beyond our sensor range. Or perhaps our intelligence was wrong about their numbers." The Admiral considered this. Maybe the humans had fewer ships than the Zephyrians thought. Or maybe they were hiding behind planets. Either way, it did not matter. 50 ships or 200, the result would be the same. "Take us into the asteroid belt," she ordered. "Standard formation. Begin broadcasting to the galaxy. Let everyone watch as we clean up this mess." The massive fleet began moving toward the center of the system. Between Mars and Jupiter lay a wide belt of rocky asteroids. Some were as small as houses, others as big as cities. Mining platforms floated among them, looking abandoned. Everything seemed normal and harmless. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched on their viewing screens. The images came from Zephyrian ships as they advanced through space. Most viewers felt nervous. They were about to watch an entire species die. On the ocean world of Narita, the fish people gathered in their great underwater arenas. The screens showed the beautiful but deadly Zephyrian fleet, moving like sharks through dark water. Some Nereidans looked away, not wanting to see what came next. The crystal beings on Veltar Prime made low, sad musical tones. Their young ones asked why the pretty human ships had to be destroyed. The adults tried to explain about war and empire, but it was hard to make it sound reasonable. Admiral Kethvara stood proud on her bridge as the fleet entered the asteroid belt. Her ships moved between the floating rocks like dancers. Their sensors mapped every asteroid, every piece of debris, every abandoned platform. "Admiral," said the tactical officer, "I am detecting some unusual readings from the mining platforms." "What kind of readings?" "Power signatures. Very faint, but they appear to be active. Also, some of the larger asteroids show signs of internal structures." Kethvara felt a small worry in her stomach, but she pushed it away. "Probably automated mining equipment. Humans are known for leaving their machines running. Continue the advance." The fleet moved deeper into the asteroid belt. Everything remained quiet. The mining platforms drifted silently in space. The asteroids tumbled slowly in their ancient dance around the sun. It all looked peaceful and empty. Then one of the asteroids moved. At first, it was just a slight change in rotation. The tactical officer noticed it on his screens, but thought it might be a sensor error. But then another asteroid moved. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, his voice rising with alarm. Multiple asteroids are showing controlled movement. They have engines. Before Kethvara could respond, the first mining platform opened fire. What had looked like a simple ore processing facility suddenly split apart like a flower. Hidden weapon ports revealed themselves all along its structure. From these ports came streams of light that moved too fast to track with the naked eye. The light hit the leading Zephyrian destroyer. The ship's shields flared and held for exactly 1 second. Then, something impossible happened. The destroyer simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next moment there was only expanding vapor and debris. "What was that?" Kethvara screamed. "Report! Kinetic kill vehicle," the tactical officer replied, his voice filled with shock. "Solid projectile, traveling at 15% light speed. Our shields could not stop it." More mining platforms were opening up now, revealing weapon systems hidden inside. But these were not the simple plasma cannons that human ships carried. These were massive magnetic accelerators, built to throw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The asteroids were moving with purpose now. They were not natural rocks at all. They were weapons platforms, disguised to look like ordinary space debris. Each one had engines, sensors, and kinetic cannons powerful enough to punch through any known shield. "Impossible," Kethvara said. "Our intelligence showed no such weapons. Humans do not have this technology." But the evidence was destroying her fleet. The kinetic projectiles moved so fast that her ships had no time to dodge. When they hit, they did not explode or burn through armor. They simply transferred their enormous momentum to the target, turning advanced warships into clouds of metallic gas. A second destroyer died, then a third. The beautiful formation began to break apart as ships tried to maneuver away from the hidden weapons. But there was nowhere to run. The entire asteroid belt was a trap. On the galaxy's viewing screens, alien watchers sat in stunned silence. This was not what anyone had expected to see. The mighty Zephyrian fleet was being torn apart by what looked like flying rocks. The Nereidans in their underwater cities stopped placing bets. The crystal beings on Veltar Prime made sounds of amazement instead of sadness. Even the ancient galactic mediator, watching from his chambers on Nexus Prime, felt his wooden features shift with surprise. "How is this possible?" asked a young Aether, its gas form swirling with confusion. "The humans were supposed to be primitive." On Earth's moon, General Chen watched the battle through her command screens. Her aide, Colonel Martinez, stared at the displays with his mouth open. "General, what are those weapons? I have never seen anything like them." Chen smiled for the first time in days. "Project Heimdall, Colonel. 50 years in the making. While the galaxy was developing fancy energy weapons, we perfected the art of throwing rocks very, very fast. More Zephyrian ships died as the hidden weapons continued firing. The kinetic projectiles were impossible to stop with conventional defenses. Energy shields were designed to deflect other energy weapons, not solid matter moving at such incredible speeds. Admiral Kethvara realized with growing horror that her fleet had flown into a carefully prepared killing ground. The humans had not fled in panic. They had not built weak defenses. They had turned their entire asteroid belt into the most deadly weapon system in galactic history. And they had done it so quietly that no one had noticed. "All ships, emergency maneuvers," she commanded. "Get us out of this belt." But it was too late. The asteroids were moving to surround her fleet. And in the distance, more contacts appeared on her screens. Those fleeing human ships were turning around and coming back. They had been bait, leading the Zephyrians into the trap. For the first time in 300 years, the Zephyrian Empire faced the possibility of defeat. And across the galaxy, every species that had laughed at human primitive weapons was learning a terrible lesson about the difference between simple and stupid. The battle in the asteroid belt became a nightmare for the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Kethvara watched in horror as more of her ships disappeared under the relentless kinetic bombardment. Each impact created a brief flash of light. Then nothing remained but expanding debris. "Admiral," her tactical officer called out. "I count over 300 asteroid platforms now active. They are repositioning to maintain firing solutions on all our ships." Kethvara gripped her command chair. "Return fire. Use the quantum disruptors." "We are firing, Admiral. But the asteroids are too small and fast. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto them effectively." The problem was becoming clear. Zephyrian weapons were designed to fight other advanced ships. The quantum disruptors worked best against large targets, with energy shields. But the human asteroid weapons were different. They were simple rocks with engines and magnetic accelerators. There were no shields to disrupt, no complex systems to target. On Luna Base, General Chen stood in her command bunker surrounded by screens showing the battle. Her officers worked at control stations, coordinating the asteroid platforms with military precision. "Heimdall Station 7 reports ammunition running low," said one officer. "Transfer control to backup systems," Chen replied calmly. "Activate the reserve platforms in Section 12. Colonel Martinez finally understood what he was seeing. "General, how long have you been building this?" Chen turned to face him. 50 years, Colonel. Ever since first contact. We knew this day would come eventually. Some species would see us as weak and try to conquer us." She gestured at the screens showing the battle. "While other species developed energy weapons and exotic technology, we did what humans do best. We built things. Big things. Simple things. Things that work." The truth was staggering. For half a century, while appearing to struggle with basic space technology, humans had been quietly constructing the most massive weapons system ever created. Every asteroid in the belt had been hollowed out and converted into a kinetic cannon platform. "The aliens thought our fusion reactors were primitive," Chen continued. "They were wrong. Fusion reactors are perfect for powering magnetic accelerators. You need massive, sustained energy output. Antimatter is too unstable. Fusion is reliable." On the main battle screen, another group of Zephyrian ships tried to escape the asteroid belt, but they found their path blocked by what had appeared to be empty space. Suddenly, chunks of debris began moving and firing. Even the smallest pieces of space junk had been weaponized. Admiral Kethvara was learning a terrible lesson about human psychology. Other species saw war as a contest between advanced technologies. Humans saw war as a problem, to be solved with engineering. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we have lost 400 ships. The surviving vessels are requesting permission to retreat." "Denied," Kethvara snapped. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not retreat from primitives, throwing rocks." But even as she spoke, she knew the situation was hopeless. Her ships were trapped in a three-dimensional maze of kinetic weapons. Every direction led to more asteroid platforms. Every attempt at escape met with precisely aimed projectiles moving too fast to avoid. The worst part was the simplicity of it all. The human weapons were not exotic or mysterious. They were just chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds using basic physics. Any species could have built similar weapons, but no one had thought to try. Across the galaxy, alien species watched the impossible battle with growing amazement. On the crystal world of Veltar Prime, young crystal beings asked their elders difficult questions. "Why did we not build weapons like this?" asked one young crystal. "Because we thought they were primitive," replied an elder, his crystal form flickering with embarrassment. "We thought energy weapons were better." "Are they not better?" The elder was quiet for a long moment. "Apparently not. On the ocean world of Narita, the fish people stopped betting on the battle. It was becoming clear that the humans were not losing. The great Zephyrian fleet was being destroyed by what looked like an asteroid mining operation. The implications terrified them. If humans could hide such weapons in plain sight, what else might they have hidden? How many other primitive technologies were actually superior to advanced alien science? In the asteroid belt, the battle continued. The human weapons fired in coordinated volleys, each shot calculated by computers hidden inside the asteroids. The kinetic projectiles had no guidance systems, no complex electronics. They were just metal moving very fast in straight lines. But at 15% of light speed, straight lines were enough. Admiral Kethvara finally accepted the truth. But the humans had thought of that too. As Zephyrian ships tried to activate their faster-than-light drives, they discovered that the space around them was filled with debris moving at high velocity. Hyperspace jumps required precise calculations and clear space. The kinetic projectiles made both impossible. Admiral, we cannot jump. The space-time distortions from the kinetic impacts are interfering with our navigation systems. Kethvara felt something she had never experienced before. Pure terror. The humans had not just built a weapon. They had built a trap that prevented escape. Her mighty fleet was caught, like fish, in a net. On Earth's surface, in the deep command bunkers, human operators worked calmly at their stations. They had trained for this moment for decades. Every shot was planned, every movement calculated. The asteroid platforms operated like a single vast machine, controlled by the most advanced targeting computers humanity had ever built. General Chen, reported an operator. Zephyrian fleet strength is down to 65%. They are attempting to form defensive formations. Chen nodded. Activate the secondary platforms. Show them what humans learned about overlapping fields of fire. More asteroids came alive throughout the belt. These had been waiting silently, looking like normal space rocks. Now, they revealed hidden weapon ports and began adding their firepower to the bombardment. The Zephyrians found themselves in a killing field that extended throughout the entire asteroid belt. No matter where they turned, more weapons appeared. The humans had turned millions of asteroids into a single, unified weapon system. Admiral Kethvara realized that her empire had made a fundamental mistake. They had judged human technology by their most visible ships and weapons. But humans had built their real defenses where no one would think to look, disguised as the natural debris of their solar system. Send a message to the human fleet, she commanded, her voice heavy with defeat. Request terms for surrender. Her tactical officer stared at her. Admiral, the Empire has never surrendered to anyone. The Empire has never faced anything like this, Kethvara replied. Send the message. Across the galaxy, alien viewers sat in stunned silence as they watched the greatest military force in known history ask a primitive species for mercy. Everything they thought they knew about warfare had just changed forever. The surrender message reached General Chen in her command bunker on Luna. She read it twice before responding. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was asking humanity for terms of surrender. 50 years of careful planning had led to this moment. Send this reply, she told her communications officer. Admiral Kethvara may withdraw her remaining ships immediately. Any vessel that attempts to fire on human positions or civilian targets will be destroyed. The Zephyrian Empire will pay reparations for the unprovoked attack and will recognize human sovereignty over all our current territories. The battle ended not with human extinction, but with the impossible sight of Zephyrian warships fleeing the Sol system. Of the 10,000 ships that had entered, fewer than 4,000 limped away. The debris field in the asteroid belt would serve as a monument to the day the galaxy learned not to underestimate humanity. Admiral Kethvara stood on her damaged bridge, watching Earth grow smaller on the main screen. Her perfect uniform was torn, her blue skin pale with shock. She had lost more than half her fleet to an enemy that officially did not exist. According to all intelligence reports, the weapons that destroyed her ships were impossible. Admiral, her tactical officer said quietly, how do we report this to the Emperor? Well, Kethvara was silent for a long moment. How could she explain that humans had turned their entire asteroid belt into a weapon? That their primitive, kinetic technology was superior to advanced energy weapons? That 50 years of Zephyrian intelligence had been completely wrong? Tell the Emperor the truth, she said finally. Humanity is not what we thought they were. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world, every station, every ship, beings struggled to understand what they had witnessed. The crystal beings of Veltar Prime resonated with sounds of amazement. The fish people of Narita swam in confused circles. Even the ancient gas dwellers called the Ethers could not compose songs to explain what had happened. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The same chamber that had witnessed human foolishness now hosted a very different kind of meeting. Ambassador Park returned to the center of the circle, but this time, the alien representatives did not whisper or laugh. They watched him with careful respect. The Galactic Mediator spoke first. Ambassador Park, the galaxy has witnessed an extraordinary battle. The Zephyrian Empire has suffered its first military defeat in 3 centuries. How did humanity accomplish this? Park looked around the chamber. These beings had mocked his people just days ago. Now they hung on his every word, desperate to understand how their assumptions about technology and warfare had been so wrong. 50 years ago, Park began, when humans first joined the galactic community. We realized something important. Every species here had followed the same path. You developed energy weapons, exotic matter, quantum technology. You all believed that more complex meant better. He gestured toward the chamber's great screens, which showed images from the recent battle. Humans took a different approach. We asked ourselves, what is the most effective way to destroy something in space? The answer was simple. Hit it with something heavy, moving very fast. A delegate from the insect-like Thraxian species clicked his mandibles nervously. But kinetic weapons are primitive. They lack sophistication. Park smiled. Yes, they are simple. That is exactly why they work so well. Your quantum disruptors are powerful, but they can be defended against. Your plasma cannons are impressive, but they can be absorbed by the right shields. A chunk of metal moving at 15% of light speed cannot be stopped by any known defense. The crystalline Veltar representative flashed colors of confusion. Why did your intelligence reports show only primitive weapons? Why did you appear so weak? Because we needed to appear weak, Park replied. For 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. We knew that eventually, some species would see us as an easy target. So we gave you what you expected to see. Old ships, weak weapons, outdated technology. He touched a control on his wrist, and new images appeared above the chamber. These showed the true scope of human defenses. The asteroid belt was revealed as a massive fortress network. Earth's moon contained weapon factories. Even the outer planets had hidden platforms. While you were watching our visible fleet, we were building the real defenses where you would never think to look. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every abandoned satellite became part of the system. The chamber filled with the sounds of alien languages as representatives whispered to each other in shock. The scope of human deception was staggering. For half a century, they had been completely wrong about human capabilities. An ether delegate, its gas form swirling with nervous energy, spoke up. But your fusion reactors, your primitive technology, we analyzed it ourselves. Fusion reactors are perfect for what we needed, Park explained. Magnetic accelerators require enormous amounts of sustained power. Antimatter is too unstable for continuous operation. Fusion gives us reliable, massive energy output. What you saw as primitive was actually the ideal choice for our weapons. Admiral Kethvara had been allowed to attend the session as part of the surrender terms. She stood up slowly, her damaged uniform a reminder of her defeat. Ambassador Park, she said, her voice heavy with respect she had never shown before. Your people have taught the galaxy a hard lesson. We thought simple meant weak. We never considered that simple might mean perfected. Park nodded to her. Admiral, your fleet fought bravely, but you fought yesterday's war with yesterday's thinking. Humans learned long ago that the best technology is not always the most complex. Sometimes the oldest weapons, perfected to their ultimate form, remain the deadliest. The Galactic Mediator's ancient voice filled the chamber. What does humanity want from the galaxy now? You have proven your military superiority. Do you seek conquest? Revenge? Park's expression became serious. Humanity wants what we have always wanted. The right to exist in peace. The right to build our colonies without interference. The right to trade and learn from other species without being seen as easy prey. He looked around the chamber one more time. We do not seek empire. We do not want to rule over others. But we will defend ourselves against anyone who threatens us. The galaxy has learned today that appearances can be deceiving. We hope this lesson will prevent future wars. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed in ways no one had expected. The Zephyrian Empire, revealed to be vulnerable, faced rebellions across their territory. Other species rushed to develop kinetic defenses, but they were decades behind human engineering. More importantly, the fundamental assumptions about technology and warfare were shattered. Young aliens began asking why their species had not thought of kinetic weapons. Scientists across the galaxy started questioning whether advanced technology was actually better than perfected simple technology. Humanity took its place in galactic politics not as conquerors, but as the species that proved the value of engineering over elegance, effectiveness over complexity. They became known as the Guardians, who showed that sometimes the most ancient weapons, perfected through careful study and massive effort, could defeat any defense. The galaxy had laughed at human rocks thrown really fast. Now, they understood that those rocks, guided by human intelligence and determination, were the most sophisticated weapons system ever created. And in the asteroid belt, the hidden platforms continued their silent watch, ready to remind anyone who forgot the lesson that simple does not mean weak, and that humanity's greatest weapon had always been their ability to turn physics into poetry and engineering into art.